Hello and welcome to Jesus for Asia Now. I'm Natalie Wood and my husband John is with me today as we share the youth mission show our young people did a few years ago. Hello, love.
Hi, darling. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Praise the Lord.
You know, it's a joy to talk about this show because it was such a growth experience for our young people, but it was also an opportunity to show so many varying aspects of mission work and missionary life.
Yes.
And I guess I'm not sure exactly where we should start, but maybe kind of how we ended up doing the show.
Okay. All right. Well, it started out as a request and an idea. You know, there's a lot of missionaries out there, and a lot of youth don't really, in the past, when you and I were growing up, there's all these mission stories, these books about missionaries and their challenges and travels and stuff like that. There's hardly anything these days from missionaries stories. And why is that? One reason is there's hardly any missionaries out there. And the missionaries that are out there aren't really on the front lines as much as they were in the past. The missionaries that we sponsor as a church are more in the administrative side of things, or something like that. So
teachers and
doctors and stuff like that, which is needed, but there isn't. It's not that same
frontline
push.
Mission stories and
exactly. And so we thought, well, what if we had mission stories in the modern media, which is television, video.
Right.
And so what if we did a video series for the youth, but instead of having old people talk about it, why don't we feature young people going into the mission field, interviewing the missioners? Now, originally we were going to have them see what it was like to be a kid in the mission field.
Right.
But something
there
happened
aren't
with
a
that.
lot of missionary kids out there.
No, there's the ones that we were thinking about when we first had the idea, they kind of like grew up.
Yeah.
And so we switched it to having the youth interview and meet the missionaries. Now, I used to work at Pacific Union College, and I would take youth from our program. I was teaching in the video program. We would go overseas and we would interview missionaries that were over there. They were underfunded, but making a big impact.
Right.
And the impact that it had on my college students really inspired me to, hey, this is something that makes a difference in the lives of young people.
Right. Even taking them short term.
Yes.
Can make such a huge difference. It can open their eyes, which is one of the reasons we call our short-term mission trips vision trips.
Yes.
We don't call them just mission trips because you can't do a lot of mission when you're not there very long.
Right.
You don't really get to know the people. It's not immersive, really.
Right.
And so it's like to have the opportunity to at least see and open your eyes to what's out there and what the world is really like.
Right, exactly. And the biggest takeaway or the biggest impact that I saw happening was when our youth were seeing people that had been successful in the business world, for instance, and they gave it all up and they moved to the mission field, living in bamboo huts, and they were happier than the people that were back home that had everything that they needed and living a normal life. In other words, they were told that this is how you become happy. You get a good job, you go to school, you have a nice house, a nice car, and be secure and all that kind of stuff. That's the road to happiness.
Financial security.
Exactly. And then they're meeting these people that had that, gave it all up, and they're now happier than anyone that they know that went the regular way. Yeah. The American dream, so to speak. And
it is a big difference for them.
And so we thought, well, let's try that and we happened to have a couple of teenagers at the time. Yeah.
So our daughter Marianne was 14 at the time, and her best friend, also 14. And our son James was 16 at the time when we went and shot the show.
Yeah, and he was the producer.
Right.
Yeah, and
Lillian, which was a big challenge for him to learn what it really meant to be a producer on a show like that, and traveling, and he had producer support.
Yes. His dad.
Yeah.
And I kind of knew how much work it really takes to put a series together.
Yeah, because you have a little bit of experience. You kind of knew what we were in for, trying to shoot this show in 6 weeks.
Right. So we just wanted to give people a little taste of the different episodes and a little bit about how it's impacted our young people and other young people around them, as they came face to face with the missionaries and the lifestyles that they have chosen.
Right. So the first episode was from the travel getting there from China and on the way. And then the second episode was when we arrived and we went to a floating market and dealt with jet lag and met a missionary from a sensitive area. But this clip that we want to share is from the third episode where we were driving north in Thailand and we drove 8 hours and never passed another Adventist.
Right. Now, just to give you a kind of behind the scenes, this was hard because this was the third episode. This is the fourth day that we started the travel from America. And so these young people adapted so well to, because jet lag, that's 12 hours difference. So noon is midnight.
Right.
Midnight is noon.
And your meals are in the middle of the night.
That's when you're hungry anyway.
Yeah.
And around noon, you're supposed to eat, but you're like, I don't feel like eating.
Yeah. All right, let's watch this clip now.
Okay.
We're going to spend the night in Sukhothai, and then in the morning, we're going to take another bus to Chiang Mai. And along the way, we're going to stop at different towns and pray for them, because the whole way to Chiang Mai, there's no Adventists. So we're going to claim promises and just claim those areas for Jesus. Over 5 million people that live in this valley, and over the next 5 hours we will not even come within 100 miles of a single church plant. So we're claiming Joshua 1:3 that wherever you plant the sole of your foot, that have I already given unto you. We're claiming that God will send someone here to represent him in this area that doesn't have it.
This was such an experience for our youths, being in a place where there was no other believers.
Right.
And, being in a bus that long without coming within 100 miles of a believer, that was these kids, we don't kind of think about it, but these kids that grow up in Adventist churches, Adventist families, they don't really get that kind of exposure to ministry.
Right.
And for them to pray, they felt like they were entering in and able to do something.
Right, and the awesome thing is that now there's a family in one of those cities.
That's right. The cities we spent the night in.
Right.
And I believe...
and those young people, our young people, have gotten to see the answers to their prayers.
Yes.
Because we were praying for people to come and live in those cities and be a testimony.
Yes.
To God's power and God's life,
Absolutely.
God's love.
Yes. And so prayers make a difference.
Right. And so our young people had the opportunity to see that firsthand.
Yes. Right.
So.
And it's when it's a cool thing when you go into these areas that are unreached, because if something happens, that's for God, for his kingdom, that's the only thing. So if somebody comes to Christ in those areas, that's 100% church growth rate.
Right.
Just one person is 100%
100%
church growth. Whereas if you do something here in America, it's cool and it's really good, but it kind of blends. There's so much going on.
Right.
And they kind of, when they're in that situation, they kind of feel well, it's up to me.
Right.
There's a real need. You can see it. And that's impacting also.
Right, right. And the power of prayer. We just really want our young people to understand the power of prayer, because when we pray, God can do amazing things.
Yes.
Well, we've got a lot more clips to go through.
Okay.
So the next one is from the young people getting to go to a people group called the Lahu. And we got to go to their church that day, and this is their experience there.
Okay.
We came to this village that's just a few miles from the media team that we visited.
So the people are from a tribe called Lahu, and we went to church here, and it was really nice.
We got to teach Sabbath school
For
and
the children, we told them stories and taught them to sing Jesus Loves Me in English, and it was actually really fun. Even me, when I've been on trips before, I'm always like, well, I can't really do anything, so I just like sit and watch. But then like we got to teach them something and tell them stories, and it was really fun, and it was really good. I think that definitely you're never too young to be a missionary.
That insight that she had, that's huge.
Yeah, it was a neat opportunity for them.
Yeah.
Really, really wonderful.
Yeah.
Now we took them to another place. This is from episode 4.
Okay.
And this one's a little bit different because it's a temple.
Right. So the reason we took them here is because we wanted to kind of step over the line or get a better, of cultures. We wanted to give them a sense of what the local people believe, how they worship, how they seek God. And so we wanted to see, this is a whole different worldview. Well, when you come to a church, a Christian church, it's very different than when they go to one of their temples. And
Very much so.
Yeah, this is kind of cool.
we looked at pictures trying to decide whether we should come here or not, and we're like, oh, it looks really, really pretty and really cool, we should go. When we got here, we're like, oh wow, the pictures, they didn't do it justice at all.
This temple was actually made by an artist, not like a priest or anything. It was an artist who, this is their interpretation of like heaven and hell. It's got like white and then like silver outlines and stuff.
You can notice on the sidewalk, there's like, looks like imprints of flames and
there's hands and kind of creepy. But
this part is the hell, I guess, and the temple is heaven, so.
Yeah, can you imagine how that would affect our young people's minds, seeing they're people that grow up in that kind of mindset,
Right.
that kind of understanding.
Right.
So,
Makes the beauty of Jesus so much more beautiful.
yes,
Right. So yeah, that was an artist's interpretation.
right.
And so it wasn't an actual temple. I mean, it was a temple, but
We
it
went there
wasn't built
later.
by the monks and
Right.
all of that.
Yeah,
But,
so it's more accurate probably to their mindset of how life and salvation works and everything.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, the next video, this is one of our young people's favorite parts, especially James.
Yes.
And Marianne talks about it. She still wants to go back and finish the ride because you all had to cut it short.
Yep.
But this is, we call this the ride to pie.
Okay. Because that's the name of the village or the town that we spent the night in.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
It was a long ride. It was 2 days. We should have done it in 3, but we crammed it into 2. And along the way, my shift lever broke. So the Lord performed a miracle and got that thing going again. And this was very intense days.
Yeah, yeah.
The northern part of Thailand is mostly untouched by the gospel. As far as we know, we did not pass any missionaries on the whole loop.
This is my shift lever. And it's supposed to go on right down there. I rode one motorcycle and Lillian was behind me, and James rode a motorcycle and Marianne was behind him.
Right.
We swapped off a couple times, but that was kind of like, and
The
the
way
first
you
day was
rode.
like 8 hours, and the second day was 12 hours
Oh,
on the
motorcycle.
motorbikes. Yeah.
Oh,
We
yeah,
were
I
sore.
remember how tired you were when you got to the other end.
Yeah.
We took a minivan
Right.
and got there more
you
quickly.
guys went
but
straight and we went the big
Yeah.
loop. So the reason why we drove so hard is we wanted to get to Leroy's place in the refugee camp the next day
Right,
before he left.
right. So here's video of that. Right.
Okay.
classroom. And so you can hear them in the background. He's currently teaching a class by using the Bible to teach them English. So we're here just to learn about kind of more about what he does and what life is like in refugee camp.
As though they had been waiting ages and ages. What is ages? Ages, long time. Ages and ages.
We're still at the refugee camp. We just talked to the principal of the school here. It's actually a junior college. And he told us a little bit about the camp. It was founded in 1985. They can't actually leave the camp because they're refugees from Burma.
It's really hard for them to get any education. They really aren't really allowed to work outside of the camp, so they don't have any money really. So it's really good that they have a school here.
As we watched Mr. Sharon teach English, we were impressed by his enthusiasm and commitment. He uses Uncle Arthur's My Bible Friends to teach English along with Bible stories. We could tell he loves sharing the truth in this simple way.
So then we went to see some people that had flown in to do some dental training for some students at a local school there.
Right.
We've been visiting a lot of missionaries and like just seeing like how they do everyday life, and like they seem really happy, really content. Like of course like they have struggles. I assume like when they first came over here it was harder because like they probably missed home, but like they seem really happy, and it's exciting to just see what they do and the difference that they're making in the world around them. So I've enjoyed having the privilege of meeting them and seeing them, and yeah.
This is so profound to me that a young person can see that those people that are following the path of service, path of Christ, that's where the happiness is.
Right.
That's
Right.
huge.
In spite of struggles, trials, whatever else they have to go through, difficult circumstances, they find happiness.
Yeah.
And they find great happiness.
Yeah. It just exposes Satan's lie.
Right.
And living for yourself is where the happiness is.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Well, this next one is from a branch Sabbath school class that was in the same area.
Okay.
You know these babies have no diapers on.
Yes. It feels like you stepped right into like a mission book story, like out of a mission book kind of, because like there's all the pigs and animals underneath the house, and you climb up a little ladder and you're in like a little hut thing, house. Quite an experience. But it's good. It's just like huge culture shock. Like, I don't know. It's just like, wow. Kind of. You read about stuff like this, but to actually be here, it's just like you get all the smells and everything.
You like that shot of the pig at the end there?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. But again, it was like a total, you know, you're like in the mission storybook, she was saying. And it was really, really, it was really an eye-opening experience.
Yeah, and that's what's so needed. I mean, our kids grow up in this bubble of what the world, and they think the whole world is like America.
Yeah.
And to take them outside that bubble so they can see what the world is really like. I mean, you know, those concepts and those visions or those understandings may like go underground for years, but they're never completely forgotten.
Right.
And so when they think about America, now they think about America as being one way or one kind of life. There's many people that don't have that are, and they now know that by experience, not just theory.
Right.
To me, it's like every single child should have that experience.
Right. Right, and that's one of the reasons we shot this show.
Yes.
Is to share it with those that won't be able to go.
Right.
We know that there will be young people that can't go. And so to make sure that they have the opportunity to see this also and see others experiencing this will help them as well.
Right, and maybe encourage them to go.
To take the opportunity to go.
Because it's a matter of priorities, really.
Right.
Yes,
right. Okay, so our next section is we went to Gail's, and some of our viewers might know who Gail is. She's a nurse, and we'll see her in a little bit, but the road to her place is quite intense. So the first video is of the road to Gail's place.
Okay.
This is Auntie Gail's truck. We were wondering why such a small, sweet lady would need such a big, tough truck, but we soon found out. The road to her house is rough and steep, and it's much steeper in real life than it looks in the video.
Basically, we are riding in the back of the truck. We've had a lot of steep corners and stuff. Yeah, we have for these little things because it is so dusty. It's like you pass these trucks and you're like this far away from hitting them. So that is not good.
These roads are rough in the dry season, but in the rainy season, all the dust and dirt turns into deep, slippery mud. When the truck won't make it, they take a motorbike, but even that can be a lot of hard work.
So we finally arrived at Gail's after going through the bumpy road, and the next day we went to a village.
Is he swollen at all?
Not really a lot of people have come, but those that have come, she's treated, and it's just cool to watch her check on them and stuff. And so now we're going to have worship, and a lot of kids have come. A few kids have come. So, yeah.
Yeshu eya yatenya liso shine debaya meya puya la atri doya ke aponeli Yeshu eya Yeshu eya Yeshu eya
I'm the most fortunate person in the world because I have the very best job of anybody, because I get to meet people and help them physically, and that makes a bridge to their heart, so I can help them understand more about God. And I get to tell people about God every day, some that never heard before. So this is the biggest joy you could ever have this side of heaven.
We love Gail.
Yeah, we do.
But for her to share, you know, the young people just love Gail too.
Yeah.
To go there and see what she does and how she treats the people, and then they have worship together with them, and it just brings a lot of joy.
Very inspiring for our young people.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, the next part, we go to a slum in the big city of Bangkok.
Yeah, so from the jungle to the concrete jungle.
Right.
The kids are getting here and stuff, so...
When we arrived at the slum, Josh Bowder greeted us and showed us into the building they are renting for church. We asked Josh to tell us how they started to connect with the kids, and he told us this little girl's story.
This is Nong Toy. Nong Toy, say Sawadi. Sawadi Kap. Sawadi Kap.
So the rest of that story about the little girl, you have to watch MissionTREK to get. We don't have time to share it here.
Right, and that's at MissionTREK.net.
Yes.
Just so we get that in there so people know where to watch it.
MissionTREK.net.
Right.
Not .org, .com, but .net.
.net.
Yes.
Right.
The next clip was we're going to go to a large temple in downtown Bangkok.
This is the reclining Buddha that is as old as the United States. It measures 150 feet long and 50 feet high. It's really big. The ornate paintings on the wall were originally there to teach the general public the stories of Buddha's search for enlightenment as well as Thai history. I don't know how to read this kind of textbook, but we were intrigued by them.
I don't know if you hear the clink, the little dinging, whatever it is called, but it's people putting money in these buckets, like penance. So they're like trying to earn merit by getting money for their sins.
After shooting this and seeing the impact that it has on the young people, we would like to do more of these kind of vision trips.
Right.
In fact, we had one planned for the summer of 2020.
Right.
And we kind of got derailed.
Yeah.
But we're hoping in the future to be able to do this and not only do it as a vision trip, but an educational vision trip.
Right.
So that we bring like a classroom curriculum to our students, but not in a classroom with four walls, but we take them into the actual environment of missions.
To educational experiences like this.
Exactly, because the biggest impressions really are seeing, number one, the need, and number two, the happiness of those that are serving.
Right, right. Well, unfortunately, that's all we have time for.
We're only about
today.
halfway through the trip.
I know, we've got a lot more to cover.
So we're going to have a part 2.
Right.
MissionTREK, JFA Now, MissionTREK Part 2.
Right. I'd like to thank you for joining us today, and if you would like to be involved, you can contact us at Jesus for Asia, P.O. Box 1221, Collegedale, Tennessee 37315. Call us at 423-413-7321 or visit our website at jesusforasia.org. May God richly bless you until we see you next time on Jesus for Asia Now.